Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're inviting you on kind of a journey back in time.
Right, to an era filled with things that seemed, well, inexplicable.
Exactly. Think flying objects, people floating, unseen forces. Were these real glimpses into another reality? Or was something else going on?
It's a fascinating question, and our source today really gives us a unique perspective.
It really does. We're doing a deep dive into a document from 1877, Mesmerism, Spiritualism, etc., historically and scientifically considered. It's by Dr. William B. Carpenter.
He was the registrar of the University of London, a very distinguished figure.
And his mission, and ours today, is to unpack how easily minds get swayed by what he called epidemic delusions.
And how science, real rigorous science, can cut through illusions, even really convincing ones.
You'll find Carpenter was, well, a staunch defender of the constancy of the well-ascertained laws of nature.
Absolutely. He basically argued that anything that seems to break these laws, especially if a person is involved, is probably fraud or self-deception.
Or both combined.
Right, or both, until, and this is key, it's proven otherwise by really tough tests designed by what he called skeptical experts.
He put the burden of proof squarely on the weird stuff.
He did. And he shows that this isn't new. Belief in occult agencies, he says, has this continuity from the very earliest times.
Like the sorcerers and exorcists back in the 1st century. Simon Magus flying before Nero.
Exactly that kind of thing. Or later, the belief that witches could fly. It just keeps popping up in different forms.
He even mentions a case from his own time, Mrs. Guppy, supposedly flying into a locked room in 1877.
Yeah, appearing plump down, unconscious. For Carpenter, it wasn't new magic, just the same old human tendency wearing a new outfit, so to speak.
So what's the root cause? Why do these beliefs catch on and spread like wildfire?
Carpenter points to the mind being subjected to a dominant idea.
A dominant idea.
Yeah, a powerful notion that can just take entire possession of someone, and it can spread through huge crowds.
Like those medieval manias, the flagellants, the dancing plagues.
Precisely. Or the demoniacal possession scares and nunneries. It's the same mechanism, according to him.
And he noticed these delusions change shape over time.
Right. Sometimes purely religious, sometimes trying to latch onto science, like Mesmer did.
And then often back towards something emotional, like spiritualism's desire to connect with the dead.
Exactly. That longing for assurance about continued existence.
Which brings us back to the experts. Carpenter insisted investigating this stuff isn't for just anyone.
No, definitely not. He said you need specialized knowledge, physiology, pathology, how the nervous system works, how prone we are to self-deception.
And crucially, how to spot fraud.
Which is why those skeptical experts were non-negotiable for him. You need people who know the tricks, both mental and physical.
It's like applying a scientific method to things that seem unscientific.
Pretty much. And speaking of science, let's talk mesmerism. Franz Mesmer arose in 1772.
With his universal fluid, right.
Yeah.
Curing people first with magnets.
Then claiming he could use anything. He even said he'd magnetize the sun.
That sounds ambitious.
It caused a huge stir. But then the French Academic Commission investigated in 1784.
And what do they find? No fluid.
No fluid at all. And, more importantly, people only felt effects when they believed they were being magnetized.
Even if nothing was happening.
Right. And if they were near a supposedly magnetized tree but didn't think they were, nothing happened either.
Wow. So it all pointed to expectancy, which you thought would happen.
Exactly. The power of the mind to create the effect.
But the effects could be real, physically, like that insensitivity to pain.
Oh, yes. Mesmerism developed into states like mesmeric somnambulism. Carpenter mentions surgeries, amputations even.
Where the patient felt no pain.
Apparently not. Or very little sign of it, needles under fingernails, things like that with no reaction. Dr. Noble saw incredible examples.
So the state was real, but the cause wasn't some mystical fluid.
And that's where Mr. Braid, a surgeon in Manchester, comes in. He had a breakthrough.
What did he discover?
He found he could induce the same state, he called it hypnotism, just by having someone stare fixedly at an object for a while.
No magnets, no will from the mesmerist.
No external will needed, just the subject's own focused attention. This provided a scientific rationale for a lot of it. It brought it into the realm of psychology.
That is a game changer. But what about those claims of controlling people from afar? The silent will.
Ah, yes. Carpenter tackles those too. He gives examples where it just failed under scrutiny.
Like Dr. Noble's friend.
Right. The supposed influence didn't work when the subject wasn't expecting it. And another mesmerizer, Mr. Lewis.
The one who claimed he could make someone float.
That's him. He failed publicly when tested by university professors. The silent will, the levitation, it didn't hold up.
Seems like basic physics 1 out there.
Yeah.
Okay, what about the next big thing? Odalism.
Another supposed new force in nature, odal, discovered by Baron von Reichenbach, a chemist.
And his sensitive subjects felt weird sensations. Saw flames from magnets.
Prickling, streaming feelings, yeah. Seeing small volcanoes of flame, odyllic light from people.
Sounds dramatic. But Carpenter, using Braid's work,
showed these were subjective sensations. Again, it comes back to the dominant idea. People, even wide awake, could be led to feel, see, or smell things they were told they would.
so they'd see flames from a magnet even if the magnet wasn't there.
Exactly. Or feel drawn to a magnet that was hidden away. Their belief created the sensation.
Was there a scientific test for odal?
Yes, and this is crucial. Von Reichenbach himself admitted that if you put a magnet on a sensitive scale, it wasn't pulled towards the sensitive's hand.
So the force wasn't reciprocal. It wasn't a real physical attraction.
Precisely. It proved the feeling was entirely in the sensitive person, generated by their own mind and expectancy, not some new force acting between them and the magnet.
That really nails Carpenter's point about the mind creating its own reality.
It really does, even when you think you're wide awake and objective.
So this leads us into how suggestion works even when someone is fully conscious. Carpenter talks about electrobiology.
Right, another state, often induced by staring at a disc. It seems it made people highly suggestible, even while awake.
And the examples are wild, right? Water tasting like coffee.
Or wine. Feeling a chair is scalding hot when it's not. Being unable to stand up because you believe you're chained to the chair.
It just shows how perception can be completely overridden by a strong enough suggestion.
Absolutely. And this understanding, Carpenter argues, is the key to unlocking other mysteries.
Like table turning and divination. He calls it ideomotor action.
Ideomotor action. It sounds technical, but it's a pretty simple principle, he says. And it's the key to things like the pendule explorator.
That's the ring on a string thing.
Yeah, people thought it could magically tell time or answer questions. And the divining rod for finding water or metal.
So it's not magic, it's...
Tiny, unconscious muscle movements. Your hand holding the pendulum or the rod makes incredibly small movements guided by what you expect or suspect will happen. You want the rod to dip over water so your muscles subtly make it happen without you realizing it.
And tests proved this.
Consistently. Like the diviner who failed when blindfolded. Or tests with buried objects where the diviner only succeeded if they already, perhaps unconsciously, knew where it was.
So even something like thought reading.
He attributes that to the same thing, unconscious muscular cues. The reader isn't psychic, they're just incredibly good at picking up tiny physical signals like muscle tension in a hand they're holding.
Okay, this is all painting a picture of how easily we can be misled by ourselves or others. Which brings us to Carpenter's thoughts on testimony itself.
Yes, he was very strong on this, basically. The more extraordinary any assertion, the stronger is the testimony needed.
Common sense, really, but he applies it rigorously.
If a claim goes against all known experience, all established science, the evidence has to be absolutely rock solid, beyond suspicion, impossible to explain any other way.
And he uses the witchcraft epidemic as a chilling example.
A terrifying parallel. He points out how utterly trivial things, a hare supposedly turning into a witch, a boy seen flying over a wall, were taken as absolute proof.
Leading to thousands of deaths.
Based on flimsy, often ridiculous testimony. And even highly educated people, wise men like Bacon, Cotton Mather at Harvard, they bought into it, defended the persecutions.
It shows how belief can just steamroll reason.
Carpenter contrasts this with genuine scientific marvels, like handling molten iron explainable by physics, the vapor layer, or the telegraph initially mocked but based on sound principles.
Unlike things like the snail telegraph hoax.
Exactly. That preyed on gullibility. Science provides explanations. Pseudoscience relies on belief without proof.
He even mentions a case where scientists were initially fooled, Mr. Crookes' radiometer.
Right. A fascinating device. At first, it looked like it revealed a new force in nature. Light pressure, maybe?
But it turned out to be
an indirect effect of heat. Perfectly explainable by known physics after really careful experiments. It wasn't a new force.
Which reinforces his whole point. Exhaust all known explanations first. Don't jump to new forces or spirits.
Precisely. Rigorous inquiry is essential, even when the phenomenon looks genuinely baffling at first.
Okay, let's apply this to clairvoyance. The French Academy offered a prize in 1837.
The Burden Prize, yes, for reading through opaque objects.
And the result?
Total failure. And lots of fraud exposed, like the clairvoyant caught peeking through her bandage. Simple stage magic, really.
What about the famous ones, like Alexis Nadolf in Paris?
Huge reputations, but again, under careful scrutiny by people like Dr. Forbes and Carpenter himself.
Who was almost convinced at first.
He admits he was nearly taken in, but they found the lucidity just vanished when controls were tight. Alexis was fishing for clues from unconscious hints.
And they were good at tricks, like reading folded papers.
Very good. Using reflected light, tiny gaps, tricks anyone could learn, Carpenter notes, not supernatural vision.
And Braid tested another one, Mademoiselle Bernard.
Yes, he suggested using a simple cardboard cone to really block her vision.
And her manager.
Refused the test. Classic sign they know the trick won't work under real scrutiny.
Then you have the outright confessions, George Goebel admitting he peeked in boxes.
And Mr. Hughes's Jack, whose amazing blindfolded reading was duplicated by a surgeon just by subtly moving facial muscles to create a tiny gap to see through.
So, common sense was right all along. It was a trick.
Carpenter really hammers this point, especially criticizing Professor Gregory for endorsing clairvoyance without proper checks.
Pointing to real cases, like the medium whose wife exposed in court how they opened sealed letters.
Right. If someone knows what's in a sealed letter they held, Occam's razor says they opened it, not that they have magic powers.
It's amazing how strong the desire to believe can override that basic logic. Okay, table turning and spiritualism. How did Michael Faraday tackle table turning?
Oh, Faraday's experiment was elegant. He built a simple indicator device.
What did it show?
It proved the table only moved when the sitters were unconsciously pushing it sideways. Their hands were exerting lateral pressure even if they swore they weren't pushing.
Those ideomotor actions again, the unconscious muscle movements.
Exactly, driven by expectancy. Everyone expects the table to move, so their hands collectively make it move without any conscious effort.
And the origin of modern spiritualism itself, the Fox sisters.
The Rochester wrappings. Carpenter cites Dr. Austin Flint, an anatomist, who figured out the trick.
It wasn't spirits wrapping.
No, it was a physiological trick, snapping tendons in their feet and legs to make clicking or rapping sounds. Flint even learned to do it himself.
And a relative confirmed it.
Yes, Mrs. Norman Culver gave an affidavit detailing how they made the sounds with their joints, toes, knees, ankles.
So the whole foundation was basically a physical trick.
Seems so. And when it came to England with mediums like Mrs. Hayden,
How did she get the answers?
Carpenter says she watched the questioner intently. People unconsciously give away their expectancy through expressions or tiny movements.
And if you didn't give anything away?
Scientists found they could easily stump her just by keeping a poker face and not expecting any particular answer.
What about things like automatic writing with planchettes? Or tables spelling things out? Carpenter mentions unremembered ideas.
Yes, this is fascinating. Information stored in someone's brain but not consciously accessible could come out through these methods.
Like the planchette naming its hometown correctly.
Right, Bath. Even though the people using it consciously thought it was from London, the memory was in there somewhere.
Or the table giving the Queen's accession year.
Or the Prince of Wales's age, when nobody present consciously knew. The information was latent in someone's mind and directed the unconscious movements.
So the spirit was actually just tapping into hidden memories in the sitter's own brains.
That's Carpenter's explanation. It wasn't external intelligence. Even when clergy asked test questions.
Like, is Christ God? And the table tapped no.
They got the answers they expected based on their belief it was demonic. The dominant idea in this case, expecting a negative answer, shaped the outcome.
It all circles back to that dominant idea.
Carpenter really laments how even intelligent people get possessed by it. Any idea vividly presented can take on the force of reality for them.
Which is why investigators were told to just keep trying until they saw results.
Exactly. He saw it as training them to believe, wearing down their skepticism through repetition and expectation.
So the big takeaway from Carpenter, nearly 150 years later,
is that we have to trust our sense, our critical thinking, our reason more than our senses.
because our senses are easily fooled.
Incredibly easily. Think of any stage magician. Carpenter uses the example of Bosco making a hare seem to turn into two rabbits, pure sleight of hand, faster than the eye can see.
So the spirits that seem to possess people.
In Carpenter's view, they're just dominant ideas. Powerful, yes. Pervasive, often. but generated by the mind, not from outside.
It's a really powerful framework for understanding these phenomena.
Grounded in physiology and psychology, even back then.
So the final thought for you, listening now. In our age, saturated with information, and let's be honest, misinformation, how do you make sure your common sense, your critical thinking, stays in charge?
How do you guard against those powerful, often invisible, dominant ideas that might be shaping what you believe without you even knowing it?